All right, so welcome to the Perennial Podcast. We sit down with athletes, entrepreneurs, and everything in between to talk about what it really takes to build something that lasts. Not just the highlights and the wins, but the setbacks and decisions that shape who we become. And our goal is simple: leave every conversation with something you can carry into your own journey because we believe the best things aren't built overnight, they're built for the long game. So, quickly, just give us a 30-second, minute long intro, and then we'll get right into it.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Sanaa Redmond. I'm currently a player development coach. Started playing basketball at a very young age. Actually, remember picking up a basketball when I was 5 and just started playing in my backyard with boys and really just fell in love with the game, playing outside. Um, and then I just had dreams to go D1 once I started to play more organized basketball and AAU teams. Ended up having a really good high school career at the Shipley School, which is right outside of Philly, which is where I'm from. And I went on to play Division I basketball for 4 years. And after that, I went on to be a collegiate coach at the D3 level. And now I'm currently building my player development brand.
And that's your brand that you wearing on your shirt, right?
Yes.
Cool, cool. So we'll get into training and coaching all that. So let's go back to you as a player. If you could coach Sanaa, the player, what would you tell her and why?
Um, if I was coaching myself, I would definitely tell her to have more fun. I think I kind of lost that fun that I was having in the beginning. What really attracted me to basketball was just like playing with friends. So if I was coaching myself in high school and even in college, just to like remember my love for the game, and use that to really fuel me, and not get so caught
Mm,
up in expectations or I feel like outcomes that I put on myself, and also that I just felt from maybe different coaches. So that's definitely the message I would tell myself.
yeah, and you're the third person I've had on this podcast, and everybody I've asked that question, and they said the same thing. Like, I wish I would have had more fun, or I wish I like. Why do you think that happens so much? We lose joy, we lose the fun.
Honestly, I think as just getting older, you start to put more pressure on yourself. Like I did mention, like you just think that, oh, I have to do this, or maybe the coach won't like me, they won't play me. Just different expectations and just pressure. Also, it just comes with if I want to make it to this next level, you have to put a certain amount of pressure on yourself.
Yep.
So I do feel like that's also where it comes from. Um, and I think also just getting really, I guess, too deep into stats and putting that on yourself, and that also puts a lot of pressure on yourself and boxing yourself into numbers, but really we're just people who have real feelings, and that pressure can come too much sometimes. So
Yeah. Do you find that like when you transition to being a coach and stepping away as a player, do you think you found your love again? Or
yeah, I definitely, well, I found my love like training again after college ended, because I did lose my love for the game after college because I went through some really bad like injuries
Mhm.
my sophomore through senior year, so that also played a role in it, which I think also makes people lose a love when you've been doing something your entire life and then you have to miss months, at hand because of an injury, and you kind of start to lose that sense of self when you've
Yeah.
only been attached to a sport. So yeah, I definitely think that has a lot to do with it.
Okay. So for the high school players, hopefully watching this, like what you played on the Division I level, what is something you wish people knew about playing on that level?
Um, I think I wish, honestly, talking to kids, like you said, I wish they knew how much of a business it really was. Uh, it really is. Also, I feel like if they really understand that these coaches, they have a job to do, and if you're not going to bring value, it's kind of like you're just going to sit on the bench. So really understanding that in a sad way it is kind of transactional, so really understanding that you have to be tied into the work, and really just take it super seriously to get to the next level, because as much as you move up and up to the next level, it just becomes more of a business in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think again, that's another reason like people lose the joy because you feel everything's transactional, like everything feels fake. Like I don't
Mhm.
know it's real, but I got these expectations. Okay. So when you finished playing, like did you know you wanted to coach and train?
I actually didn't, because like I said, I had like a really tough senior year. I had like two concussions. I was dealing with stress fractures in my shins that wouldn't go away. So I actually decided to like really run away from basketball, I would say in a sense. But once
Hmm.
I realized that that wasn't going to fulfill me, um, in any way, even personally or professionally, that's when I started to get back into training. Because growing up, like my goal was okay, it's D1 WNBA or it's D1 then college coach. That was kind of my plan in my head when I was like a young hooper. Um, but once I got to college and saw kind of the business side of things, I lost love and then injuries happened. But once I kind of sat down with myself and reflected and realized how much I felt like I could give back, to young girls who want to play basketball, and how much I just really love the process of training and just progressing, that I wanted to get into training and coaching. So that's what led me back to it.
Got you. And I feel like that always happens. You step away and then you like, wait, nah, I love this for real.
Right.
Okay, got you. So you got into training. How's it been just building your business and what's some challenges you face? What's that been like?
Yeah, so it's definitely been like roller coaster at time, I would say, especially in the beginning stages. Like everyone says that, I feel like, because you're realizing that it's so much more than just like the workouts. It's getting clients to come in the door, and then when they get in the door, converting them to actually being, people who are going to come back consistently. And it's just so much that I didn't realize, went into it until you're actually in the thick of it.
Mm,
But I do think that I've started to get a lot better at the business side of things in terms of like getting people in the door, talking to parents, just different sales and other aspects that come with the business. So I would
okay.
definitely say one of the biggest challenges was definitely the sales side of things, because as a basketball player, you don't think about those things or really have to do those things. If you're good on the court, then that's what's going to get you recruited. Um, really off the court too, but it's not really that customer service and sales and marketing and just all these other things that come with it that are just as important as the workout itself when they do show up.
Yeah, that was, I think, hard for me because I kept building content, like expecting people would just find the page that were looking for it. But I was like, no, you actually kind of got to figure out how to get yourself out there. How did you, this is a genuine question. Like, how did you start getting people in the door? Did you DM people, follow people? Like, what'd you do?
So a lot of both. So a lot of the people that I have that still kind of come back to my clinics came from a free clinic that I did when I first started. So when I first started my training, right after that fall, I did a fall free girls basketball clinic, and people really enjoyed it, and they were asking for leagues and just all this other stuff. And I kind of do wish I had more structure at that point for people to actually sign up for, but those people ended up coming to clinics. So I think that free clinic for girls really attracted a lot of people and people I'm still close with. And then also another tactic that worked for me was I have a high school coach who I'm really close with, and he's now at a different school than where he coached me at. But I looked at players, that were serious about basketball on his team, and I reached out to their parents and said, "Hey, I know you're the coach, blah blah blah. Would you be interested in, getting a training session in?" And there's still a girl that I train now from like a year ago when I first did that. So I think those two things have been the most successful for me in getting people in the door. But the thing about the DMs is like I've DM'd so many people, and I would say it's like a 30% conversion, honestly. But the more you put out is the more that could go good. So that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah. So it's easier for you, like going through the parents and going
Hmm.
that way. Okay. What about so your clinic? Did you have a theme for it, or was it just like, hey, just come work on everything?
Yeah, so that was all around. Only thing was only for girls, but that was the only really, I guess, theme for it was a fall girls basketball clinic.
Okay. And that was your first one. How was it? It was
Yeah, that was my first ever clinic I ever did, and I had like a really good group of coaches that I had come help me, which made it a lot more smoother.
mhm.
Um, but it was honestly, I mean, overwhelming a little bit in the beginning. I had like 20 to 30 kids show out, and I had one full court. and I had side baskets, but still trying to manage all that. Like I was very grateful for like how much I did prepare and was ready for that. But overall, it was a great experience.
Okay. And I see you train boys, girls. One thing I like is I scroll back on your content. So you started out at the park, and I'm like, anybody that's willing to do something like that, like I respect that because I got to a point even in college where I was like, everything got to be indoors, and it's like, but we grew up playing outside, and like you said, playing in the
Yeah,
backyard, playing. It's like that's kind of if you're not willing to show up to the park, I'm like, I don't. Do you really care for real? Like, do you want to get better?
exactly.
So. So player development question, I'll try to get a little more specific with this. Today is how do you train with intention with your players?
So the way that I train with attention, I try to make it as specific to what they're good at, but also what they need, and try to put them in situations that are going to force them to grow. So, for example, like one of the girls who I DM'd and I now still work with, like she's a shooter. So I'll spend like I would say 30 minutes of that workout like working on shooting and like different drills that are going to challenge her to shoot and not just doing like wide open catch and shoot drills because I feel like that's not going to help her for a game. She's not going to be wide open. So I'll spend a bulk of that doing like challenging shooting drills. So that's how I like put intention in that. But then I'm also going to do like a 10-minute like working on finishing, like something she might not be as comfortable with. Like obviously she's good at it. She's a good high school player, but introducing her to new finishes and like things of that nature. So that's how I try to be intentional about, them growing, a certain thing, but also kind of honing in on that one skill that they already have kind of mastered and getting better at that.
So you take like what they're I guess good at and you focus on making them great, but then you add in small holes to fill the rest of it.
Yep.
Okay. Are you watching like film with players? Do you talk to their coaches? Like,
Yeah, so I haven't watched film with any players, as a lot of my kids are kind of younger, like middle school,
okay.
high school. But so I haven't really had to talk to coaches as much, but that definitely is something I think that will come into fruition once I start moving up with more high school and then like hopefully working with college players.
Okay. What's the hardest thing about working with middle school? Because I think I've tried it a couple of times. It's like the focus is just different the higher level you go,
Yeah.
you know. Like what's your challenges with that?
I would say middle school is definitely the attention spans, at least for me. I would say you have to keep them interested, involved, and it's not just like with the high school where it's like I can kind of be a little bit more tougher with them. Like they know what they're here for. They have a goal to play at the collegiate level. They're not really messing around as much. So middle school is kind of just keeping them involved and keeping it fun.
Okay, got you. So then the last two questions, we actually moving through these quick. What phrase would you eliminate from youth basketball forever if you could?
What phrase?
Hmm.
Um, it's a good question. I would say like you need to be at a certain level. Not necessarily a phrase, but kind of like putting kids in a box, I think at an early age is getting really bad for youth basketball, especially with kids specializing in basketball too early. And also just I've seen it with girls, especially girls who were they might be 5, 6 at like 10 years old. So they only do post moves for all of middle school and then they stop growing in high school and
Hmm.
it limits their recruiting so much. And I've seen it happen way too many times in youth basketball where that happens of just being put in that box. So I think that's definitely the phrase I would go with because I think that even if she does grow to be 6'3", I mean, imagine if she has guard and post skills. So I
Right.
think it's just not limiting players really. I don't really think until maybe ninth or 10th grade, you really know what this person or what role they could fit into in college.
Yeah. I think too, like as a coach, that kind of makes your job harder, I guess, because it's easy if you want this kid to play a role, like you said, at a young age, because it fits what he's trying to do. But I think like you have to be willing to kind of let players figure themselves out and like how they play. So yeah, so last question. I coach high school girls. You playing Division 1 and all that. Like what was your timeline like for recruiting? And then last, what would you say to like we've got a young team, they all just became juniors this year, and a lot of them are trying to get recruited. Like how would you talk them through that process?
Yeah, so my recruiting was honestly like super tough for me. So I can only imagine how it is for them now with like the portal and just prep players getting recruited kind of before they went high school kids. But kind of what my journey looked like was I played for a Philly AAU team my ninth and 10th grade year, but I wasn't getting, well, I felt, me and my family felt like I wasn't really getting seen or the exposure that I needed, which really allowed me, which didn't allow me to, really get interest or anything of that nature. And in my head, it was like, I have to go D1, which is kind of bad in itself because I kind of had that D1 or bust mentality, which is like super bad to have. But that's what I had at the moment. And I had to make a switch, so I decided to switch to a different AAU team that I felt like I was going to get more exposure with. And also the reason why I really felt like I had to switch is because like I was killing high school. Like by the time when I was in eighth grade, I was playing on varsity, like starting on varsity, with other players who went on to play Division 1 basketball, like two or three other people, and just Division 1 athletes in general. So I felt like I had to take more control over my recruiting, and I think that's kind of a tip in itself to like young players. Like you have to go where you're going to be seen. Like being good is not going to get you recruited because if no one sees you, if you're not in the right rooms, it really doesn't matter. So once I made that switch for AAU, I feel like I started to get more interest. And also with the help of my high school coach, who I'm still very close with, and him being a former D1 coach, having that network is what led to me getting my first Division 1 offer, and that was the summer going into my 12th grade year. Getting that offer from Samford University, which ended up being my only Division 1 offer, and I had other interests and offers from other collegiate teams, but that was the only actual offer. It was like, okay, you can come here for a full free ride. Um, so that's
Okay.
really what my recruiting looked like. At that point, also, which made my recruiting kind of weird, was COVID because when I was in 11th grade, after I played my last basketball game, COVID had started. So, I mean, COVID was kind of already in the midst. So, coaches couldn't really come to AAU tournaments as much. So, a lot of the time, I was sending film where they would have to watch it, um, like through whatever servers they can use at AAU tournaments, which also made my recruitment a lot different. Not having like that personal and really just getting to talk to coaches in person. And then my 12th grade, what really, but also I'll go back a little bit. When I got my first Division 1 offer, um, I was told by some people, to wait and see if I was going to get any more offers and really just weigh up my options. But because of COVID, I decided to just commit because that was my dream. I feel like I finally like got what I wanted, and I am looking back, kind of happy I made that decision because my 12th grade year for high school, I ended up only having 5 games. So because of COVID, like my school was super strict about the policies for that. So I ended up not. I wouldn't have had any opportunity to even be seen for a late offer. Um, so that's kind of what my recruitment timeline looked like. But my advice to high schoolers is you really have to take ownership of like your recruiting. Like in this age of social media and just everything going on, like you have to have a page, professional page with your name, class, school you go to, AAU team, like put your film on there, reach out to coaches. And also my number one tip honestly is your network because to be honest, that's like I said, if you're not in the right rooms, if you're not talking to the right people, you could average 20 points, 10 rebounds, but if you don't have people advocating for you when you're not around, coaches who are going to talk to college coaches and say, yeah, you need this kid on your team, then all that work really wouldn't mean anything. So that's really the biggest tip I would give. And then another one I would have is really trying to become, I would say, elite at like one or two things. I see like a lot of kids now like try to have like such a deep bag, and they see players like Paige Becker who are doing like Patuna leg, blah, 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 step backs and turnaround jumpers. But like, that's not going to be like that's rare. Like, when you get to college, that's probably not going to be your role. So, really focusing on those one or two skills or areas and mastering that, and don't not letting that box you in, but saying, okay, when a college coach comes to see me play, they're going to see that I lock people up on defense, I can handle the ball, and I finish around the rim, and that be it. And of course, you want to work on shooting and things like that if I'm that player, but I want to be reliable in those things because that's what college coaches are going to see as value and something they can count on. So that's really the
Yeah.
three biggest ones for me.
Okay. So for somebody that wants to take control of recruiting, you would say focus on relationships with coaches because those are going to
Yes,
be the
I
people
was.
that vouch for you.
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely say focus on your relationships and being
Cool.
intentional, like with your being intentional with those relationships you have with coaches and getting close with them.
Okay. So last where can everybody find you? Where's your training located? What's Instagram? People want to train with you.
Yeah, so my business is called 19151 Basketball. Just give a little bit about the background. So that's my zip code, being from West Philly, and
Okay.
always just felt very connected to that part of me, and just my history being from there, and just wanted to give back to kids in that area because I saw a lot of potential there and kind of untapped. So I'm currently in the Philadelphia area training. I do go to New Jersey at times with different clients. But yeah, that's where you can find me. Instagram is at 19151 basketball on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I think that's it right now.
All right. Well, cool. We appreciate you hopping on with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep.